has 2 years of activity, and I want to concentrate on the third page, which is our current year. Currently, if you work yourself from left to right, our cash inflows as of April 30th of 2023, we have $16,982,305. We have interest of $13,928 for a total of $16,996,233 inflows. The next section is our outflows. First outflow is our pharmacy. We spent $3,716,920 for pharmacy. Medical expenses, claims, we spent $10,769,065. Stop loss, we've spent $449,652. Fees, $48,812, and other fees, $50,000. In addition to that, at our last benefits committee meeting, we talked about reimbursing our workers' comp fund that helps us initiate this particular fund, about $1 million. So we made that transfer back to the workers' comp fund, about $1 million. Again, we budgeted for that this year, and we transferred those funds in April. So total outflows is $16,034,455. If we compare that to our inflows, we have a positive variance of $961,779 for this year. In addition to that, if I take that amount and bring forward our beginning balance, currently we have $3,408,449 in our self-funded plan. The next section is our recap and making sure that we tie to our what we have in our general ledger. We have $527,212 invested in our pools.
What's this, item 5?
We're on page 3.
Page 3 on our expenditure. Yes, perfect. On page 3. So currently we have on our GL $3,408,502. So it's a balance. Both numbers agree. Again, this is as of April 30th. We have 2 more months to go for our fiscal year end. We have May and June. Again, we have $3.4 million in our coffers for the self-funded insurance plan for this as of April 30th, 2023. Any questions or concerns?
Let's back. So what were the losses this year?
Okay, so if you go back on the third page, we started with November. Well, if you go back one more page, on page number 2. So the bottom of the page. So our first month was July. For July, we have cash inflows of $1,507,198, an interest of $715, for a total cash inflows of $1,507,913. Okay. For that particular month, we had outflows of $918,921 for a positive variance of $588,992. If you look at the next month, August, again we have positive variance of $277,201 for the month. Okay. Right below that, for the month of September, we have a negative variance of $107,823. That means more outflows were spent than inflows. For the month of October, we have a positive variance of $1,648,439. There we had a pending transfer that we had not done for the previous year, so we made that transfer, and then it was a
How
positive
much was
variance.
that transfer?
That transfer was $1.5 million. Okay, from the previous year. Now if you turn to page
So
number 2.
without
Yes, sir.
without that transfer, I see $1,005,000. Without that transfer, would we be negative or positive for that year?
For that particular month, we would have netted $148,000. Positive, yes, sir.
That's great. Okay.
Perfect. If you turn the page, if we start with November, for that particular month, we have a negative variance of $39,344. Okay. We have overages of $39,000. For December, we have a positive variance of $164,724 for that month. Our inflows outnumber our outflows. For January, we have a negative variance of $206,540. Again, we had more claims than inflows. For February, we had 117,000 negative variance. For March, we had a negative variance of 452,155. And for April, we had a negative variance of 394,645. Those couple of months, we had some major claims come through our
Your system,
system.
correct, and sometimes there's like a 90-day lag between when the claim is actually filed and when it's processed and paid by Blue Cross and Blue Shield.
Are these catastrophic claims? Or?
I don't have all the data in front of me, but looking at the weekly claims, yes, if we have some individuals who may have been in the hospital, maybe a heart attack or a stroke. We've had some people going through cancer treatment, and so some of them are catastrophic, not necessarily all of them. But usually in the winter time is when our teachers and our staff take time to get those surgeries or get those procedures done, and that can add up. We see a spike in claims usually like in August, September for the summer, and then again January, February, March because of the winter time.
But for the year, we show a positive of 3,408,000, correct?
That's correct. As of April 30th,
Does that include our prior balance, which
that
started,
includes our prior beginning balance, yes, sir.
which was what?
What million? It was just a million, right?
No, it's 2 million, 2.2.
Oh, but when we first started, it was a million.
Yeah, when we first initially started this program, it was $1 million that workers' comp fund transferred $1 million to this fund. So we started off now in April, we returned those millions back to our workers' comp fund.
So just for this year alone, we're still.
Yes, just for this year alone, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, we're $961,779 and that's quite a positive variance.
What is our loss ratio?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah. We'll have to get back to you on
Yeah,
that loss
yeah.
ratio.
Is it like 90 or?
It varies month to month,
Yeah,
but I don't want to give you a number and then it comes out to be completely incorrect. But we
We'll
can
get that.
Well, at the year end, would you give it to us?
Yes,
yes, sir.
definitely.
Yes, sir.
Right, that's good news.
I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
The 50,000 and other fees, can you say normal? I guess that's, there's some sort of, it looks like a regular kind of fee there, 10, 5, 5, 10, 10.
Yes, so those are Blue Cross and Blue Shield fees that we pay on a monthly basis. On a monthly basis, to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Okay,
The other fees are the fees to our consultant for our
okay,
health insurance.
okay. And then, so just one more question on the balance, the 961.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to look at how this compared to past years, and I think that it's better than past years. But
So yes, so if you go back to page 2, and you see the 290,000.
yeah,
So that was
so we're up
Yeah.
there.
up there, and then right below it, you have 2,155,000 for year end. So that's, so you add those two amounts.
Quite a bit.
Yes, that's right. You add those two amounts and we come up with 3.1 million for our solar farm program. As of April 30th, again, we have 2 more months to go on this program.
And then I also looked at like their July, August expenditures, and that's with quite a bit. Sometimes
Yes,
it's positive, but sometimes it's $1 million plus in the negative, so we don't really know.
Yeah.
Do we have any indication of July, August, or
So-
this year?
so if you go back at that particular time, the transfer hadn't been made for those 2 months. If you look on page 2.
Page 2, like at the bottom or the line, in the middle?
In the middle.
June, July,
In the middle.
August.
That's the one.
Okay.
That's the previous year.
Yeah, the previous year. Yes.
So Rachel, you were saying that those two, the summertime, you get heavy losses?
Yes, usually that's when a lot of our staff, since they're off for the summer, they want to have take advantage of not using their leave.
Procedures?
So they have procedures done, so they don't have to use their time. They don't have to go on FMLA or anything like that or get doc paid. So they're just getting their procedures done, and that way they're out for that 2.5 month period to enough time to recuperate.
Is that pretty traditional, like $1 million, $1.5 million for those months? I see. We had the previous year too.
Yeah, all the others.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's less than the year before, but that's,
Yes, sir.
if it's negative, it's always money. It looks like we'll still be in a positive, even if there's.
Yes, if there was some major changes, yes, Michael will still be in positive at the end of this fiscal year. Yes, sir.
We still have the stop loss, anything that's over 200, and the member meets $275,000 deductible, the stop loss carrier will kick in and shield us with that protection for that excessive claim.
And explain again the sources of the revenues.
So we charge our different funding sources, $504 per employee per month. And all those funds contribute to our self-funded fund. And that's how the inflows are generated each and every month. We reconcile that transfer through Ms. Cortez's office, and then we transfer those funds after the month and after reconciliation is done, and then we deposit those in our
We had talked
self-funded
last,
program.
yeah, we had talked last year, if you remember correctly, about perhaps figuring out what to do with this balance if it gets to a point where there's, if there's too much there, or what do we do with that? Can you remind me what was the thinking of what we're gonna do with that? Because it's $3.4 million right now. At what point do we say, okay, it's probably too much money in this fund and move it somewhere else? Or do you recall that conversation?
I recall that we had talked about, see, how can we put this back to the employees or have wellness initiatives for them? What is it that we can do that's, of course, that would enhance that wellness program, get people to maybe a doctor or see what other districts are doing. I know one of the items on the agenda we have for today is to discuss the health insurance consultant. So one of the things we want to do is collaborate with that consultant and see what other districts outside the valley are doing, and see how we can utilize this money that we have. That way, it doesn't just sit there. We don't want to use all the reserves, because we need to be ready for a hit. Because we never know. Somebody can get a diagnosis all of a sudden of cancer or what have you, and we want to be prepared for that. But at the same time, we don't want to keep that money there and just let it sit there, because we want to give back to the employees.
But we always have a fallback, right? The stop loss is always a fallback
Mhm.
for each one of those situations. So it's
Correct.
not as if we never
Be
Fully wiped out.
Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
Correct,
It's not like
correct.
as if we can never fully, those are getting pretty close, it keeps happening to too many people.
correct.
But let me ask you this, I love the thought of wellness, I love the thought of new initiatives, use it for health and wellness and things like that. Tell us about the TPA, so we're still using Blue Cross, is that right?
Our TPA is our health insurance consultant right now is Gallagher.
It's Gallagher, okay.
Correct.
So Gallagher's costs, Blue Cross costs are nominal, right?
Their fees are nominal. Yeah, that's correct. It's expensive, obviously, is the medical claims and the pharmacy. So,
Yeah.
and the fee for our consultant is $60,000 per year. So $5,000 per month.
So it's pretty nominal on the whole scheme of things.
Yes, it is.
So really, there's no way to save anywhere else. It's just basically to see just what happens with the claims
Correct.
and see what happens, that kind of stuff. Okay, well, I would love to hear, down the road, like what we could do with some of this extra money. Y'all are already doing a lot of wellness and stuff.
So I know this past year we lowered our premiums. That was one of the benefits that we had for this year from prior year.
Right, well, in 2020, 22, 23, there we go, we had a 5% increase, and we were looking at the increases that we've had in the past 5 years. The largest one was 9.2% in 1920. So we've been able, being a self-funded account, we've been able to keep those increases low. I've always said to the committee, one of the advantages of being self-funded is that we negotiate with ourselves. We're not looking to have a $3 million balance. We're not the private sector. We're wanting to see what can we do to give back to staff. So here, we're just trying to even break even with our increases. So that's one thing that we want to look at is, are we able to keep the rates the same for next year? We won't have that discussion until there's a decision made as far as a consultant. Because right now we did an RFQ, and it's part of the agenda that we can discuss next, and have those discussions with that company, with that firm.
What about, I know we talked about this before, what about incentivizing, wellness checks, cancer screenings, health screenings, things like that? I know we're doing some of that right now, but can we do it like monetarily? Can we do can we give them like a, $100 kind of, yeah, I mean, I think a lot of companies do that, they give them a monetary bonus if they get their, and that could be the difference if, obviously prevention,
Early detection.
obviously, yeah, early detection or prevention, but also sometimes just going to see your doctor and getting a wellness check, and then guess what? You get put on blood pressure and cholesterol medication, and that prevents a heart attack. I mean, it's not something trivial, you know what I mean? So I wonder, anyway, just putting it out there.
Yes.
Certainly look at that.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, if I might just add to that, I mean, I think this is the time, we've talked about different prevention initiatives, early intervention screenings, all of that. Now really is the time to come back with those types of proposals.
Can we use some of the savings that we're fortunate to have every year to do those incentives? I mean, like if somebody, if they go and get their annual checkups or whatever screening,
We can certainly, yeah.
We can look at that
Yeah,
to
look
see,
at that, certainly.
since we're a public entity, it's a little bit different than private
I didn't
corporations.
know if we could use those funds for
Yeah.
any other purpose, but
We
that
would,
would be,
yeah, we would need to investigate that a little bit more with our consultant, just to be sure that legally we can do that as a public entity.
I can't tell you how many people I've known that didn't go get their colonoscopy. And,
No,
but
but
they were too late.
Yeah.
That is true.
It's really, it really is a
It's
serious point
preventive.
because, I
It
mean,
is.
we
It
really,
is.
I thought he was worried he was gonna try to throw the school board, press box or do something like that, No, but I think we need to put it back into the employees, some way to put it back into the health and wellness of the employees. This is,
Yeah, any type of preventive work will definitely help our employees and our fund as well, I think. So yes.
any other questions?
Well, I have a question, because I know we were doing the screenings every year, and how is that looking? Because I know from my perspective, from our campus, we had hardly any employees participating in that. I think I was one of the few that got the flu shot and had my cholesterol checked and all of that.
We tried early on in this fall semester to work with Valley Baptist to do health screenings on the campuses. But I know they were going through a transition with their administration. So it's taken a while to get those contracts in place. And them working with Blue Cross to getting the codes. They no longer have the reference lab at Valley Baptist. Now Valley Baptist themselves will have to coordinate going to each site. So at this point, we're looking at next year. Just not too long ago, we communicated with them, and hopefully here in January of 2024, we are able to have on-site clinics again. And the reason we do it in the spring, usually in the fall, is pretty busy. Kids are learning, their roles, and teachers are learning their new students, and it's a very busy time. And then our nurses are doing testing, state testing. So we've always done those exams, those on-site screenings at the end of January and February. So we are looking at doing that. We were hoping to do it this spring, but it just didn't pan out for us with Valley Baptist. Going back to that, they didn't have some of the staff, and then, like I said, going back and forth with the contracts and the codes. And so, but hopefully we'll get it worked out, and we'll communicate that to you all once we are able to come up with that plan.
Okay. Because I think that was a great way to do some, that's how I ended up as Dr. Edison being put on cholesterol medicine because I wasn't able to keep it down.
In years back, I would have staff tell me that's really the only time they went to the doctor. Because we test for the A1C, we test for the triglycerides, they would do the hypertension test, the weight, and have nurse coaching. Like once you got your results, it's like, what do I do with it? So we would have a nurse, Valley Baptist would provide a nurse coach. And the nurse would say, okay, this is what this means, this is what you need to do. If they had a doctor, they would send those results to the doctor, because I know my doctor called me and said, okay, I got your results, come in so we can talk about them. And those that didn't have a doctor, they would help get a doctor. So that we agree that it's very helpful to staff, especially the ones that don't have doctors. And it's unfortunate that's the only time they get to see a doctor, but it's vital, because we've had people who've been diagnosed, pre-diabetic, pre-hypertensive, and we've said before, if we save one life, that's awesome.
Something else, is nutrition. We've got a great nutrition department.
I know.
Consult with people who do that, I don't know.
I don't know if they're able to consult with the staff, because then it interferes with their normal duties. I know we've talked about hiring one individual, but we weren't sure that one individual would be able to service, you know, our 2,800 staff members at any given time. So we have talked about that, but I don't think the child nutrition department would be able to consult with them.
Just because of their funding source. But
Yeah,
But we
That's
have
right.
had situations where, and some campuses have done it individually, where they have hired an outside nutritionist, and they were able to run it through the insurance.
I mean, I think it's a great thought.
Mhm.
If you have 3.4 million, I mean, this could be another, you know, and I agree that this is different because it's going to be a recurrent expenditure, whereas some of these things you could ramp up and down depending how much funds you have. Once you start hiring, you know, nutritionists, that's a recurring expense, right?
Correct.
If you want to hire somebody and fire one and say, okay, we have too many, we have to let money, I mean, we don't want to do that, but
Right.
if you did have, like, let's say a department, you know, and you said, you know, because, you know, diet and weight loss is so important for the health and wellness of our people. If you did have this and have like a clinic somewhere where they have it and you make appointments, you know, 2 of them, let's say, maybe still 2 isn't enough, I don't know, we can try it and then go to 3 if you need, but that's probably a recurring expense that we could afford with this money left over every year, to be honest with you. And that would be a great benefit for our people. So they don't, because I'll be honest with you, if you're not stealing business for anyone else, it doesn't exist anymore else, quite honestly. You know what I mean? The nutritionists that we have, they're all working inside of a hospital, right? They're not getting this kind of stuff. Most of them, there are some in the out, don't get me wrong, there are some, but they're few and far between. And so I feel this would be a great benefit for, you know, for the school, for the employees.
maybe through a consultant type of contract too as well.
And I was gonna
Yeah.
suggest, maybe once we're settled with our health insurance consultant, one of the things where we can look at is doing a request for proposals or qualifications for that, and that we hire
Given
as a
service.
consultant for that service, to be able to do that.
Sorry, I'm gonna do my 2 cents.
Go ahead.
Sales pitch on this. So, one thing to think about is that there's, ongoing evidence-based programs focused where the programming has been shown to work, with like 20 years out. You go through this program, 20 years down the road, you've reduced your risk of diabetes. And it's based on weight loss, increased physical activity, improved nutrition, which all of us benefit from, right? And so nutrition and nutritionists are wonderful, wonderful. If they embed themselves potentially in a broader program with greater evidence, and it helps people change behaviors and have support, et cetera, then you're really changing lives. So depending on how you frame that announcement and that request for qualifications, you can look at it even more broadly. And it's programming, it's group-based programming, so, you know, you're running people through that.
Right.
And they have a cohort of people that can
Get support.
support
Yeah.
them. That's really.
We have Naturally Slim in our plan, and so I don't know if you all recall, those individuals are not here, but the ones that went through the plan, the way I recall it was they wanted support. You know, they got the equipment, they got the nutrition, and it's like, okay, what do I do with it now? You know, and they felt like it was a chore at one point. So we heard that, it's like, they want one-to-one. They want to know, who can we go to have that verbal support, who can I call, who can I visit with,
They needed that extra push.
that extra push.
Go to the
We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right, so with nothing further on that, I guess what the next item, are we going to take that as well? Discuss request for RFQ proposals for health insurance consultant?
Yes, sir, thank you, Dr. Lewis. Not sure if the committee members, board members. So we submitted an RFQ for our health insurance consultant. I think this is our 5th year with the same consultant, so we needed to request a proposal and upgrade that particular contract. So we received a total of 13 proposals back in February 24 of 2023. Proposals were evaluated and 6 firms were interviewed by our committee. Our committee consisted of the following people: Ms. Coggins, Assistant Superintendent for HR, Mr. Garcia, our principal at Moses Bella Middle School, Ms. Anderson, Director of Purchasing, Ms. Ana Romero, Employee Benefits Compliance Specialist, Mr. Martinez, Director of Payroll, and Rich Cortez, Director of Employee Benefits, and our intern support myself. So one of the items that we really wanted to impress upon the interviewees, the fact that we didn't want them tied to any of our pharmacy and or medical providers or vendors. And that was key to provide transparency for our district and our group. So I know Ms. Rich has a little bit more information on that.
Okay, so if you see on page 4 is the ranking of the firms that were interviewed, and they're highlighted in like a yellowish color. The ones not highlighted, they were not interviewed. So as you can see from the ranking, McGriff Insurance Services ranked at 100. It's the last item on the column. And second, after McGriff, it's Marsh McLennan Agency. And the third one that was ranked was Gallagher Benefit Services, which is our incumbent. Scott Gibbs from McGriff did the presentation, he did the interview, and he stated that he would be the main point of contact for us. He's a senior vice president and has been with McGriff for over 28 years of experience. McGriff was previously our consultant from 2008 to 2017. One of the things that stood out with them, along with their presentation, along with their proposal that they submitted, was that they would be using our utilization data, being proactive, and recommend wellness programs to us, what kind of activities, what kind of strategies would work for HCISD. They would help us, supervise the wellness program, solicit wellness proposals, provide the marketing, and review our benefits to see how they can integrate wellness initiatives. So it was a very, very competitive interview process. Like Mr. Mendoza said, we had committees. We had Mr. Garcia, we had, the rest of the administration that were there. After the ranking, the fee was not part of the criteria, but we did look into the fees, and what we gathered was McGriff would give us a flat rate of $82,500 with no commissions or not tied to any company, to no coalition. Marsh quoted us at $75,000, but they also were requesting 20% of the pharmacy savings, which would be paid by the pharmacy benefit manager. And Gallagher's fee would be $60,000, plus they're also getting $1.75 per script. Basically, it's a commission. So they're getting about maybe another $60,000 to $70,000 from the pharmacy on top of their regular fee. But again, the fee itself was not part of the ranking, so we did not rank them on page 4. But after we did the ranking, we reviewed that information, and we wanted to share that with the committee.
So McGriff is, you said 82?
82,500 flat.
No other hidden fees, no
No,
other pharmacy fees?
no.
Flat deal?
No,
Yes.
no,
And if
and
you compare apples to apples with like what we're doing now with Gallagher, it's like 120, right? 'Cause they're getting
correct.
it.
Correct. So one of the questions we have for Blue Cross and Blue Shield, without disclosing anything, is okay. So that extra fee, which is about $60,000 or $70,000 extra that's being paid to Gallagher, how is that going to be allocated back to the district? So what we were told was it would come back first to the employer in percentage discount. So if we had a medication that's about $100 and we get 19% discount, now we'll get 20. The employee may see $1 here, $2 there, 50 cents here, but in the long run, the big picture, the district somehow, whether they're us as an employer or their employees, would get back those 60, 70,000 back to them. It wouldn't just stay with Prime Therapeutics, who is our benefit manager. And Kim was with me when we had that discussion. Did I do anything, Alan? You got it? Okay.
Evidence of that.
So is the committee recommending McGriff?
Based on the results, we'll.
Based on the rubric, yeah.
Where is McGriff based out of? I know it's no
They're-
longer Blanca.
They're out of Dallas.
Dallas.
They're out of Dallas.
And that person who's our point person is out of Dallas as
Yes,
well.
yes. They service mainly school districts. They like I said, they were here with us before. Scott,
That's how they serve.
there's
the
all
school districts. No other.
On the Marsh McLennan, the 20%, what does that equate?
It would depend on how much of the savings that we would get in pharmacy, so they would negotiate they would negotiate, some kind of amount. And I would want to say that it would be about the same amount that maybe Gallagher is getting, more or less.
67,000.
Possibly so, yes. Because they're doing it from the savings, so if we save 100,000 in pharmacy, they're gonna want 20%. And then, of course, they did indicate that the pharmacy benefit manager would pay for that. But still, it's taken away from our staff, you know, because eventually they have to offset that cost somehow.
What were some of the wellness programs that Griffith's
They weren't too specific, because in the interview, we asked them, what have they done for other districts? You know, I know in one of the other districts, I believe it was Keller ISD, Kim, right? They had like an on-site clinic. There was, I'm trying to remember, they had an on-site clinic, and they had like the screenings as well. I think that he just gave one example, but that's what they do. They work with each unique individual district and determine, okay, this could work for you and this can work for you. When we worked with him back in 2008, you know, he was one of the proponents for us to do the on-site screenings. You know, he worked with us and steered us in the directions of what we needed to do to get that done. So he really helped us out a lot in that respect, and coming up with certain like events to get other people involved in certain programs.
Yeah, he would tailor it to our ATISD program, depending on what issues we may have.
And he will
for our staff.
personally handle our account.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Do that kind of
Mhm. He will be our point of contact. He is the senior vice president with them, and he's been with McGriff for over 20 years, and he has 28 years experience in the industry.
When will this be an action item? Right?
Tonight. Yes,
So,
sir.
I mean, but
Thanks for the,
Yeah.
thanks for the proper notice.
So the committee's recommended,
Other questions?
McGriff, is that
Yeah,
correct?
mine is just sort of, I mean, and I get it, right? We change vendors, but this is someone that we've worked with before,
Mhm.
right? And then we changed to someone
Mhm.
else. And so my question is just, is there a reason for that switch and, you know, why we're looking at?
Well, we go out for bid. Part of our new initiative is to bid out every 5 years. So with Gallagher, I'm gonna be nice. I hate to say it, but it's like with the wellness program, you know, it's like we're having to go out, okay, what's our data look like? Tell us what, what can we do? And since with Scott and his team, it's more of let's look at the data together and let's get it done. So let me give you a recommendation, and then the committee can decide, do y'all want to implement that or not. I know with Gallagher in the past, we've been with them for 5 years. In the past 4, we've had 4 different consultants. And so I know the most recent one you all are familiar with was Luidas. Prior to that, we had Nick Long, we had Mike Getz, and we've had different ones along the way. And so that has been another reason to consider it. You know what? Yes, in their interview, they said, yes, we work as a team, everybody knows your account, but it's different when you have just one
Run
person
stable
who
point of
knows,
contact, right?
who knows us, knows our board and knows our committee.
Did McGriff handle this before,
Yes,
personally?
yes,
Is it satisfactory?
yes,
So
yes.
it was a
And
money issue with the change, because that's where the question's coming from, I guess. With the reason for the change was just a better bid, you gave someone a chance because it was a better.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes.
That's part of
And
it as well.
going back to getting that savings back, that 175 per script, which equated to about 70,000, getting it back to the plan to give back to the employees. And so that was another, it's not on the ranking, but in looking at the ranking and looking at the different initiatives they are able to do, because wellness was just not it, but it was a big part too. But they're gonna do because we have core services. You know, they need to analyze our plan, monthly, because that's when the claims come in. They need to tell us, these are possible high claimants, these are our trends, and they have somebody who's gonna analyze as far as actuarial, like, these are your rates, and this is what you need to be funding wise. So that's basic core, but on top of that, they had more to offer to us.
Gallagher, they kept telling it, promising they were gonna bring the watermelon and do the whole show. They never did that, you know what I mean? So.
Because there was things that we would ask them for, like,
Gallagher, no, comedian Gallagher, watermelon. Forget it.
Let me ask
No one
you,
gets my jokes.
and I know we at one point wanted a wellness, like, review, and unfortunately Lou left that time, so it was like, okay, we're gonna start again. And Bobby's been great, but it's kind of like, okay, we're starting all over again. And so we felt, it was time because of the 5-year period, and we need to see what's out there,
We talked about this the other night with the banks and so forth. Is 5 years too long, or is this the kind of business that they really need 5 years to make this type of quote?
To make a difference.
To make the quote that they make?
We can certainly look at it, I know.
3 years sounds
Yeah.
good.
3 years is
It's
standard.
Standard.
5 years is when you don't have a lot of companies that do that kind of work. So
Well,
like auditing comes to mind when you're thinking of 5 years, because there's not a lot of people that want to do that kind of public work, but, but some of these things, I don't know.
But if you lock them in at 82.5 for 5 years, that, I mean, it actually.
Yeah, and then we did, and that's correct, and we did have a lot of interest, 13 companies submitted to our proposal, so.
That's pretty
prior
good.
to that, I think we only had like 5 or 6.
But we have to sign up for 5 years going in, right? That's part of our contract.
There's always
No.
a way out. There's
No,
always
it's not-
We
it's
look
not-
at it 3 years, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
not.
yes,
there's a termination clause.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
30-day termination clause, so we can certainly come back and look at it after 2 or 3 years, so.
We're not tied to them for the
Yeah.
5 years.
No, sir.
Dr. Bettis is correct, is that if the board feels, or the committee feels unsatisfactory, that there's something that we need to really look at and examine, we will do that
Yeah,
and refer it back.
There's always a way out. There's always a way out. And for both sides.
Correct.
Like,
Yes.
you can get out of it too.
That is correct, yes, from both parties.
All right, awesome. Well, unless there are any comments, we can move on to the next. In the interest of time, we got some important stuff to do tonight. So
Okay?
I guess we're talking about our cafeteria. plan.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Bettis, board members and committee members. The district section 125 cafeteria plan allows for employees to pay for certain benefits on a pre-tax basis. Pages 9 and 10 in your packet give you an overview of what the cafeteria plan is and how it benefits our employees. Some benefits that can be paid on a pre-tax basis are group health insurance, dental, vision, and the flexible spending account. Pre-taxing benefits, employees lower their taxable income, reducing their federal taxes and putting more money into their paychecks. Our current cafeteria plan year is from October 1 to September 30th. To align the cafeteria plan to our benefits, we plan to transition our cafeteria plan to start and end in a calendar year, which will be from January 1 to December 31st. This transition will uniform the start date of all of our benefits. Employees who currently pre-tax their benefits, such as health, dental, and vision benefits, will not see a difference nor be impacted. This transition will impact our current flexible spending account participants. We have about 860 or so participating in that program. Page 11, you'll see a brief overview of the flexible spending account and how that works, and the flyer that we plan to submit to our staff. The flexible spending account program, which is part of the cafeteria plan, allows employees to put a certain amount into an account to pay for certain qualified out-of-pocket expenses, such as co-pays, prescription medications, glasses, dental expenses, to name a few. The funds are preloaded into the employee's account, and the employee pays the contribution on a monthly basis. And I'll give an example. An employee elects $1,200 in their flex account. The employee will be deducted $100 per month for 12 months, but the employee gets the full $1,200 on that flex card. In order for us to make this change, it will require 2 enrollments for this transition to be successful. And it doesn't matter when we do this change, we're still going to have 2 enrollments to close the gap. We have to close the gap from October to December. So we'll have what is called a short plan year in September, and that will be for anybody who just wants to participate in the flexible spending for the 3-month period. And then we'll have our normal enrollment in October, and that will be for benefits that start in January. This just basically aligns all our benefits to a 1/1 effective date, and that gives transparency, and everybody knows this is when my health starts, this is when my dental, my FSA, and we don't have staggered start dates for all of them. We will work with First Financial to inform staff enrolled in the current FSA program and let them know of the changes. Again, going back to page 11, you can see the flyer. And they will be, we spoke to them earlier today, and they will be communicating with the staff that have a high balance. They're gonna send them an email, send them a text, and via US mail to remind them to spend their monies prior to the current end plan year of September 30th. And I know if First Financial also has a store, an FSA store, where they can purchase eligible items over the counter through the website using their FSA card. So basically, we're just making this transition just to align and to be transparent. And so there will be some changes coming, and so we'll have those 2 enrollments. Does anybody have any questions on that?
How many years have we been using this?
Oh, the flexible spending account, gosh, it's been hard. I'm trying to remember, I've been here 30 plus years, I can always remember having one. We used to have it on paper, where you had to submit a claim, and maybe about 15 years ago, we went to a card, and we've been with a card ever since then. But people have an option to do a manual claim if they want to.
So what percentage of our employees and staff, teachers and staff participate?
It's very low. It's about maybe 30%. We have about 860 that participate.
30%.
It's a low percentage.
So have we done like an analysis on the ones that participate versus don't? And, kind of, that way, the other folks, so the other folks that don't do that and say, okay, here's why you should, or vice versa, maybe there's some that do it that maybe they don't need, I don't know. I wouldn't see how anyone doesn't need it, but maybe, I don't know. Have we done that? Or?
No, we have not, and
It's
I
just
know.
kind of word of mouth and kind of thing.
Well, when the enrollers come, we have benefit enrollers that come. We just partnered with First Financial recently. In prior years, we had NTA, Horace Mann, and I know one of the biggest issues people had were the constant request for receipts. And so with First Financial, I haven't heard of much complaints about them. I know they collaborate with our claims data for dental and vision, so a lot of that information they already have as proof that they have a dental claim. But we can surely work on that analysis with First Financial to find out why they're not participating.
And again, a stupid question, can you use that money for obviously wellness or anything, right?
Well, I max out on mine all the time every year. I put in every year I put in, I'm a big user of it. I know we can use it for our glasses and everything at the end, if you have money left, or I put the max, which is 2,000 something, because when I go to the doctors, I like to pay with it. So,
If it's a copay to see like say, a nurse, like a nutrition coach, if they have to pay a copay, they can use that, as long as that place takes the Visa card.
and they also have that store that you said that you can buy stuff, vitamins, anything you need.
I just think we may need to look at those that aren't using, how can we explain it better, give examples? I mean, it's it saves them money.
Yes,
Right?
it
It
does.
does. Want people to realize, right?
It does, and they get fronted that money at the beginning of the year,
Right.
so that's even a bigger plus, I believe, for staff. So if somebody's gonna have a surgery, and if the max is 2,700, I know mine, I always max it out, they front it to you. And so if you're gonna have surgery, you can use it for deductible, for medicine, and I know, I haven't heard, like I said, complaints. I did hear several from NTA that they're always asking for the receipt, and, I give them the receipt and it doesn't work, but I have yet to hear anything from First Financial.
I think personally, it's a matter of an individual knowing kind of, what you typically, that's why I've used it as long as I've been employed, not just with this district. So I think it's more a matter of informing the rest of the staff. Look, kind of like what you said, look, these are the benefits. And it's a matter of planning, really, the way I see it. It's a matter of planning that. And with most, I would assume most people, except for those, events that they don't know are going to come up.
Right.
It can be planned out. If you're on prescriptions, you know what you're going to end up spending
Right.
every year or every month. So those things can be planned out.
Yes, sir.
I'm breaking my head. Rachel, you talked about 2 enrollment periods, and you recognize that some of those funds will be terminated upon a certain date. So have we worked a plan like we did with the NTA, where we roll over those additional funds so that the employees won't lose those those monies during those 2 enrollment periods?
Yeah, so with the flexible spending account, there's a use it or lose it or the rollover option, which the district about maybe 5 or 6 years ago chose the rollover option. The IRS gives us what those maximums amount are. So I believe right now it's 570. So in September of September 30th, if you have $570 or less in that account, it's going to roll over into the short plan year. And what's great about First Financial is that if you don't use that money between October and December, the max then for 2024 will be 610. It's going to roll over into the next year as well. So, but there is a minimum. Some people do lose funds, but it's not a max that the district has placed. It's a max that the IRS has placed that we have to follow.
So we already have the list of all those employees with high balances. So First Financial is going to be contacting them through email, phone, or text to spend those funds from now on all the way to September 30th, so they can get down to their transfer balance at the end of the year.
Thank you.
And to clarify, the rolling over happens only when if you're still a full-time employee.
Right.
So if you resign or retire, I mean, that stops. You know, so you have a certain period to use your money. And so, not that I'm saying you're going to retire.
Double check, sir.
It's not allowed.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Anything else y'all need to let us know about?
No, only that the action item for the health insurance.
Just that one item, right?
Just one item.
One item.
So I guess there's nothing else.
Flexible
Thank
spending,
y'all very much.
just a plan thing
Great job.
here, and then I'm always looking at whatever it is, and then whatever, but I know it's a good fit.